Before I started training with Sam, I didn't know nothing about Jiu-Jitsu. Jiu-Jitsu was even hard to say that was for me. By the time I was just know like boxing, what I saw on the TV, and karate, judo. I love Jiu-Jitsu because it's a very smart game like chess. Like you need to think too much before you do something.
Use your elbow.
You need to react good. In boxing, everyone is the same way. In Jiu-Jitsu, it's like you can find someone much bigger than you, more strong than you. It's still working. Growing up in Cameroon is super hard, because there, in that village, is nothing there. The school is not good, and it's a very poor village. When I was younger, I used to sell rat meat in the road, in the street, to help pay my school fees. And I was working also in the farm. I was getting like £2 a day.
I saw like online on Instagram a post from Francis asking for volunteer Jiu-Jitsu, MMA, Thai boxing coaches to come to Cameroon for 1 year.
Ready?
To work at the foundation. Around the same time I started training Jiu-Jitsu, I had to go to open up a Jiu-Jitsu social project in West Africa, specifically Ghana, because that's where I'd been multiple times. I had friends there, and I just started Jiu-Jitsu not long before I first went there. So when I went there and saw how like the community worked, how they didn't really have much to do, it'd be really cool one day to open a Jiu-Jitsu project here. Like, but I was just a white belt at the time. So I had the plan in the back of my mind, like in like 10 years or more, when I'm going to try to get to black belt, try to get good results in competition, to get a lot of experience to make me a good coach. And then one day I can go to Ghana and open a social project there. Fast forward 10 years exactly, and I was just finishing my degree. I just got my black belt from Marco. And I just saw an advert for volunteer coaching in Cameroon to do basically what I'd always had a goal of doing, which was to teach at a social project in West Africa. It wasn't in Ghana, but in Cameroon.
My aunt told me to go in the foundation at Francis Ngannou, and I started there a couple of months. It was just fun for me. I was just enjoyed like mess around.
I remember meeting Franck for the first time. It was like a week after I got to Cameroon. He came to the gym with his cousin. And I was like, okay, this kid's actually like interested, like it's different to the other ones. It's like really interesting. He's looking for something. The other kids I was showing like basic stuff, basically like back control, basic positions. And when Frank came, I was like, I need to get this kid. I could see like his brain was like searching. He was looking for something interesting. So I was like, okay, let me show them some like cool techniques. So I showed him like some twist to hook, rolling back takes and stuff. And they were like going around the room, him and his cousin, like taking each other's backs, like reversing it and stuff like that. He wasn't immediately like hooked like there every day. He started coming like a few times a week, because if he'd not show up for one day and then come again, I was like, okay, he's back.
After a couple of months, I started taking like serious and be more and more in training and start enjoy it.
It was obvious to me that he was like my best student at that point, quite far ahead of the others, like in terms of he was learning much quicker. He was much more like willing to learn, paying him more attention than the other kids.
I trained for 4 years and I never compete. My first competition was in January. It was stressful because I was feeling like pressure on me, because my family was knowing I'm gonna win that, everyone, my teammates and stuff like that. I was saying in my head, I need to do good. If not, I'm not gonna be able one day to help my family, to help my teammate. And sometimes when you think too much like that, you're not gonna do good. In my final, I win my final in last 50 seconds. I was feeling pressure on me and I say, oh my God, I'm losing this fight. And Sam told me, you have 15 seconds to take that guy down. And I go for double leg, I take him down, I go straight for double leg and knee on belly. I scored 4 points on him and win the fight.
He's done like 18 competitions in the last 4 months. He's got 2 more left this year, so it'll be 20 comps, and he's already on 25 gold medals. Probably a few more before the end of this. It might be like something like 30 gold medals. That's pretty impressive for someone that's only just started competing. I basically spend half a life living in the car at the moment. Every weekend, driving, like, you know, like normally minimum 3 hours each way, sometimes longer. Like one weekend we were driving 9 hours or 9.5 hours to Scotland. Next day back down to London, which is what I remember, like a 7-hour drive. Then back down from London to Bristol, from Bristol back to Torquay again. So yeah, and then every weekend basically driving everywhere. So for sure, Franck can be blabber world champion. Like I have no doubt that he can be world champion. I'm trying to pass on what I have learned with the experience I've gained to him and try and shortcut him a little bit, and I think it's working up until this point. You know, he's doing very well for somebody that's only just started competing. He's like smashing comps all over the country, beating like 90% of his opponents.
My goal in Jiu-Jitsu is to become a black belt world champion, absolute and weight division, and also to be one of the best blue belt, one of the best purple belt, and one of the best brown belt. I'm not use one train just for fun because it's my career. I think me and Sam go up so well because he saw in the beginning I was a bit focused and I was learning a bit fast. After the training, I have nowhere to go and I will just go down to his house, watch some film with him, and after like this we start be together sometime, and I start training even in the morning, just him and me and him.
The more he started coming to the gym, then he would start like hanging around after the classes and stuff. Like I was saying, like just we finish the class and they don't go home, they're just like at the gym. I'm like, you guys don't have somewhere to go. I didn't have anywhere to go either, to be honest. Like in a village with nothing to do and no friends there or anything like that. So I used to just hang out with my students because there's the people I could relate to the most. I was like gonna go get something to eat from one of the cafes down the bottom. I was like, have you guys eaten already? You know, I asked Frank, like, you eat already? He's like, no, we don't have anything to eat. I was like, okay, come down, I'll buy you something to eat down the road. And then we like get something to eat. I'm like, are you going home or what? Like, I was like, I'm gonna go down to the house. They're like, okay. Like, it's like, you know, nothing to do. I can see they were like lost. Come down and watch a film if you want, you know. Maybe a year or a year and a half, I want to say, like, I guess, after teaching them, they were spending like so much time at the house. And then Frank lived quite far away from my place. He was living with his aunt at that time. So he would like, just go, oh, can you call my aunt and tell her, like, ask her if I can just stay here, I'll go back in the morning. He's like, I'll sleep on the sofa, I'll go back in the morning. So it's like, okay, I didn't have a car or anything, so I couldn't drop him home.
I started to sleep there like 2 times per week, 3 times per week, 4 times per week.
And he was like, oh, it'd be awesome if like one day, like I could live with you, I'd love to live with you. For me, it was like a surprise. I was like, I don't know, maybe, like, okay, don't get crazy now. Like,
I grew up without a father, and my father left me when I was a baby, and I see him the first time when I was 12, the funeral of my mom. I was spent a lot of time with Sam, and he was paying attention of me, and I was feeling it good. He started taking care of me like his son.
And so it's kind of cool for him to spend time with like an older male figure, that someone that's like teaching him, showing him stuff, you know. He was always like living with a house full of women basically, so never had that kind of like father figure type interaction. But then you come to the point, like time passed again, and it was like he started staying all the time. And I said, like, look, if you want, you can ask your aunt if you can stay. If you want, you can ask her if you can stay here all the time. But I knew his aunt very well because I used to drop him back there, like sometimes drop him back, sit and chat with his aunt. I knew their situation. I knew his like history, how he grew up with his aunt. She was struggling, so it was a big help for them when I started like kind of feeding him, taking care of him. He's spending a lot of time at my place anyway. Like I feel like I should help out a bit, like pay his school fees, you know, buy him some new clothes, things like that. So he started living like full time at my place. He was living with me already before I got married. So the wife moved in and like already had Frank and another boy, Brian, who was like another orphan and like 2 years younger than Frank. They both were living with me for like at least like 6 months before I got married. And we had like a complete family there. Then things started to go sour at the foundation. So my goal was to teach the kids to a level where they'd be good enough to become like world champion, or at least like, you know, some of the best in the world. And we basically did that. I had a core group of like 10 kids that were like very high level, and they could have been like world champions. I had like so much hope for them because they had worked so hard. I was teaching them 7 days a week for 4 years. But as soon as we take them to a tournament and they wreck everybody, people were gonna be like, oh shit, like, who the fuck are these kids, you know? That was my goal, and I knew that that would happen if we had the support. But unfortunately, the foundation was not interested in the kids competing. They didn't find it like to be like a, let's say, beneficial or productive use of money to send the kids to do jiu-jitsu competition. They'd rather just stay in the village and train. Most of them were only training because they thought they'd have a chance to fight one day. And if you tell them like, no, you guys are never going to compete, you won't see them anymore. They won't come anymore to the gym. As soon as they realized that there is no opportunity to compete on the horizon at all, a lot of them stopped training. What am I supposed to do? Sacrifice my entire life to just be like a village coach? Like, if we had a light at the end of the tunnel or something like that, where we know like, okay, this is where we're working towards. Yeah, I can put up with it for a few years more or whatever, you know, like even 10 years. If I know like, okay, you're gonna do this for so many years and then we're gonna have this plan. But if they're just like, nah, this is not gonna happen. I was like, how can I justify staying there indefinitely with no goals, no end line in sight? So I was kind of a bit stuck because I'd set up like a nice family life there, but in terms of like career or life outside of the house, outside of the family, things were not going well, right? So I was like, look, I think I'm gonna have to, like I might have to go home, might have to actually go back to the UK, but I was like, fucking hell, this kid's already been abandoned once, like by his real dad. Like, and he's like grown like so attached to me, and so like I've like taken him in as my own son, and then I'm gonna say like I'm gonna go back to the UK, and yeah, sorry, but you can't come with me because you're not British, you know, you can't. They have rules there. I was like thinking, oh, fuck, what can I do?
I was living with him 2 years before we think about the adoption.
Maybe if we do like legally adopting, maybe it would be. Maybe that could work, like he could come with me to UK, like, because for the wife it'd be easier, you know, they couldn't get like spouse visa. For Brian, he's a bit younger, so it wasn't just kind of so urgent. I was like, look, I want to go back to the UK, I want to take them with me, but Frank's he's the oldest one that's like the most urgent, because he was also like doing the best in Jiu-Jitsu, and he kind of put all his effort into Jiu-Jitsu. And if I left, it'd be no Jiu-Jitsu, no father, nothing. So I was like, I have to take him with me and keep him training and make sure like he keeps things going. We looked into doing adoption there. It would have worked in terms of like him having permission to stay in the UK, because he would have got British citizenship potentially would have got British citizenship if we'd made an application for it before he turned 18.
To do the adoption, they asked us to do the death certificate for my mom. Took a long time, like 6 months. We did the adoption before I was 18, but we didn't get the paper until my 18th birthday.
And you need to actually put the application for citizenship in before he turns 18, apparently. He is legally my son, like on the, as far as the courts go, as far as like his birth certificate says, but that doesn't give him the right to live in the UK with me, apparently, which is super fucked up. We've been looking for other ways that he might be able to stay here, apart from just via family. Right, apart from having this family link. Put some posts out to the Jiu-Jitsu community asking for help, like recommending lawyers. Got in touch with a lot of lawyers, but one in particular was like very like promising with like her attitude towards our situation, I guess. And she was like seemed very interested and passionate about helping us. So she's recommending that we make a case at the moment based on human rights. Her opinion is that it would be a forced separation of family if Frank was not allowed to stay with me in the UK here. He's dependent on me, and if he goes back to Cameroon, he'll have lost his family, he'll have lost his career, his sport, which he's so good at. If we stay together, then he can be successful in his life. We can be together as a family as well. If we don't get legal aid, the legal fees, as far as I'm aware at the moment, are going to be basically $4,500 for the initial application, including home office fees, including the lawyer fees, and then it's likely to get rejected on the first application because they don't ask for like a sufficient amount of details in the initial application. You're gonna have to make an appeal, and the appeal is gonna be another $5,000, and then that could also it is a possibility it could also get refused. So worst case scenario would be it gets refused, and I got to go back to Cameroon with him. I don't work at the foundation anymore, so I won't be earning any money there. So we'll kind of be in a bit of a predicament. Best case scenario is like the application's successful. Basically, he'll have the right to live in the UK with me, and then we're gonna open a gym in London, which is in the works at the moment, in southeast London, and we'll be teaching and training out of there and competing all around UK, and hopefully taking Frank to some of the big tournaments. Like if I can get his visas for US and for Europe and things like that, because obviously he needs visa as a Cameroon, he needs visa for everywhere. Take him to all the big comps and start getting some big results. Hopefully we can continue getting the same level of support from the community that we have until now. Like, just want to say to anyone that's supported us in any way at the moment that thanks, because without everyone that's helped us until now, we wouldn't have been able to get this far. You know, we were relying on donations at many points. You know, sometimes we got some prize money or something like that, which would like carry us through a little bit of time. But there's also other times when we don't have anything, and it's only donations and things like that which have enabled me to look after Frank and take him around the country competing like that. The biggest help that we've had over the years is what the guys from Scramble have done for us from day one. When I decided to go to Cameroon to volunteer as a coach there, and they basically donated like 100 custom gis to us, plus, you know, rash guards, plus helped me out with like fundraising stuff. Like I did some t-shirt design for them. They sold that for us and like produced that and sold that for us and sent us all the profits. The project would have probably not even worked out if it wasn't for what they did to help us. And then going past that, past the foundation, they also paid for Frank's flight to come here to the UK twice, you know, supporting us to compete at the moment. We do get some help with like competition fee, so we don't have to spend so much money to compete. It's like a massive help, but we still need to fundraise on top of that. I'm gonna start trying to book in seminars, fundraising seminars, so if anyone's interested in having us to help pay for all these costs, please get in contact. We're hopefully gonna be filming also an instructional sometime soon, which will be available in exchange for like, you know, optional donation. I'll have more news on that soon, and people can donate in exchange for certain techers, Devonshire techers. So yeah, thanks to everyone who's ever donated anything to me and Frank, to our Jiu-Jitsu journey, and like, who continues to donate. You know, we appreciate everything.